Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Center for Spiritual Living, Boulder Valley. I'm Catherine Snyder. We are a small center in Lafayette, Colorado. Centers for Spiritual Living is an organization that teaches that each of us is a divine being, that what we think and say matters, and that we can change our life by changing what we think. We start each one of these talks with a type of prayer that we call affirmative prayer. And this type of prayer is not about beseeching to an outside God, but rather each one of us is our own manifestation of that divine energy. And this prayer is about inviting that divine manifestation forward, declaring the truth of who we are and what this day will be. And it is Jim Shink today that will say our opening prayer. Jim, you are on mute if you remember.
Okay, am I still nosy?
Looking good.
Okay. Okay. Let's take a deep breath and let it out. And dwell in the presence of God. God that is the first cause, the unified mind, the love that exists in all of us. We are one with that God. We are a manifestation of that God. We are spirit and form. We are unified, we are unified in this presence. We realize and feel the love of the one true God. We intend to express our love throughout our community, throughout the world. We are the arms and legs of God. We do His bidding. We do His will. We are so grateful for this unity, this togetherness. We are grateful for all that is placed before us, all the good that is for us to realize. And I want to put this into the law, into the mechanism that brings forth and manifests our good. We are grateful and we let the law bring us our own good, bring us our own desires, bring us all that is good for us. And to end this, I will say, and so it is.
And so it is. Thank you, Jim. Our speaker today is Reverend Marcia Bencala in San Jose, California. Beautiful San Jose. Let me read her bio for you. On an ordinary day, well before joining the spiritual community and becoming a minister, Reverend Marcia walked down the hallway of her home and suddenly felt overwhelmed by absolute love. A love that goes beyond description. This love let her know deeply that no matter what, she was always cared for and supported by a power and presence beyond measure. And realizing that this thing called God is love, and that despite appearances, no one is ever separated from this love. These became the guiding principles of her spiritual practice and way of life. She has found that these principles can lead you through all kinds of life experiences, planned or unplanned. And as such, she brings to her ministry the real world application of spiritual principles to her career in high-tech startups and large corporations, raising a family, caring for aging parents, and moving through many of life's transitions. As a staff minister, Her joy and passion are supporting others in the use of spiritual principles in their own lives. So welcome, Reverend Marcia, and I cannot wait to hear what you've got to say.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you. Thank you for that prayer, Jim. That was beautiful. And hello, everybody. I want to also say I have an affinity to Colorado. My grandparents had a farm and raised sheep in Fort Collins. And my grandfather was a state senator, part of the Colorado State newspaper editor in Fort Collins. My dad was born and raised there. And now my daughter is living in Broomfield. So I actually have been to Lafayette many times.
Awesome.
So with that introduction, today I'm talking about lighting up your purpose. So my first question for you is, I want you to think about how you floss your teeth. And do you do that regularly? And you don't need to tell me your answer, just register that. And that's because it's statistically proven that if you floss your teeth regularly, you probably also eat vegetables, take care of your health, and you know your purpose, or have at least contemplated or pondered it. And for us, realizing our purpose is truly an activity of spiritual awareness. For as Jim said in his opening prayer, we are of the divine. We are always connected and expressing and never separate from that which is the divine presence. And we're here to express our own individual uniqueness, our gifts. And so purpose ties to that. We are made to shine. So this morning, what I'm going to do is take us through a little bit what is purpose, how to discover it, how to reignite it, and then I have some closing thoughts about where we are today with purpose. So first of all, I remember hearing about purpose when a book came out years ago called What is the Color of Your Parachute? I don't know if you remember that. But it was very oriented toward job hunters because companies were starting to lay off people. You know, this idea that you work for a company forever wasn't true anymore. And people needed some guidance in terms of what are their skills, what are their passions. But fast forward to 2013, for example, this whole idea of purpose actually was a very common discussion in our society, in our culture, beyond jobs. And Psychology Today, the magazine, came out and listed that there are 6 kinds of purposes. 1, survival for physical needs. 2, a personal, external focus purpose might be that our purpose is, we believe, money, fame, power, career, that kind of thing. The third purpose that we might inhabit is also externally focused, but having to do within an organized framework, such as my identity is with a religious organization or a sports team or with a certain celebrity, for example. The fourth purpose is also personal and externally focused, they said, but it was a little more altruistic. It was more around, I want to save the world in some way. The fifth and sixth purposes now shift a bit in their list. There is also a personal purpose with an inner focus, a sense of self. And they said that if you have this kind of purpose, it could be a spiritual purpose. It could also be a creative purpose, you know, an artist, a musician, a writer, something that comes through you. And then their sixth purpose is, they call it a transcendental purpose, a mystical kind of purpose, something beyond yourself that all religions and philosophers talk to. So today, what I'm going to concentrate on is number 5, that personal inner purpose that we discover within ourselves. It's how we bring spiritually our gifts to the world. So if you fast forward to today about talking about purpose, a lot of the ideas around that is not what you do. It's actually more of a verb, an action. It's how you live your life. It's something underneath the arc and flow of your life. I'm going to talk more about what that is. But first, I'm going to talk about how do we discover our purpose. There are 3 general ways. Sometimes a child knows exactly who they're going to be and will state that. I can give you an interesting example. My ex-husband knew in 2nd grade that he wanted to be a chemical engineer. And who knew? And he was. And notice the statement is not what they want to do in life, but it is what they want to be. So a purpose has to do with this inner self of being. Another way you can find your purpose is through a shift of some significant event in your life. Sometimes that's a tragic event, like a death of a child or a health issue that you might have. It's something that shifts your view and perspective of why you are alive. And I can give you an example of that. I had a friend who had a heart attack and a near-death experience. And after that, he quit his corporate job and he and his wife moved to Northern California. And now he's living through his art, which is quite amazing. The third way you can find your purpose, which is probably more common and how I've experienced this, is to reflect upon the experiences in your life. And it's a reflection that you ponder, contemplate, and develop over time, something that aligns with you. And I think that being in this philosophy is a beautiful way that helps us uncover that, because this philosophy is one in which we reflect upon our true spiritual nature, and it develops our awareness about who we truly are. So if you've been with this philosophy for a while, you know you work on your hidden beliefs, your emotions, and your feelings. You start cultivating a presence of living your life guided by spiritual principles that help you step out of your comfort zone and step into your power. And so with this then, these help build a muscle of intuition. They help you see the change you might want to make in your life that makes you feel alive and in alignment with yourself. You reframe your experiences. And then the next step is to start writing down your purpose and rewriting it until you come up with something that aligns with you. Now, this is a very quick way of saying how you find your purpose. It is a process I went through. There are classes and there are books and things like this that can help you through this process. But one thing that has really helped me think through this, and when I talk with other people, is Simon Sinek's start with your why. Find your why statement. Now, I will talk you through this. Your why statement is that which supports discovering your purpose, he says. And he defines it this way. Your why is inside you. It's a deep-seated cause or belief. You don't decide on it, you discover it. He says it is, quote, the compelling higher purpose that inspires us and acts as the source of all that we do. And it's interesting because he actually capitalizes the word source here. His definition of this why statement is a very spiritually motivated statement. He says your why statement is the truth about who you are. So he has a methodology for helping people find their why statement. He believes that you need somebody to help you do this. Now, I don't frankly believe that. I believe you can sit with your own intuition, your own reflection. But first, I'm going to take you through his methodology because it can help you inform yourself. as you're looking to develop your purpose or review your purpose, ponder it. He says that stories tell you your purpose. So when he sits down with somebody, this is what he starts with. He says, and I quote, "Tell me a specific story about yourself when you were a part of something that you did that you absolutely loved. And if every day and every activity were this way, you'd be the happiest person alive." And so then the person tells them their story. And then he asks for another story and another story and another story. And ultimately, then he asked for a final story. And this is what he says: "Tell me a specific happy childhood memory, something very specific with details, when you were most happy, free, and joy-filled. Your life was magical." Now, what he says is that often if you started out asking a person about this childhood memory, they might not recall something that's in line with this magic. But after telling stories about how they felt over time as an adult, perhaps, there were patterns that you could find between the experience of the person and their feelings with the childhood story. And if you think about your childhood, this is a time when you haven't necessarily hardened yourself, I'm going to say it that way, which is a little bit extreme, with hidden beliefs, with societal beliefs. So it makes sense that these mirror each other. And with that childhood experience in line with these others, you can pull out what your true purpose is. So I'll give you an example because it helps to understand what a why statement is. I'll give you an example of Simon's why statement. He says in his why statement, his purpose is to inspire people to do the things that inspire them so that together we can change the world. So it's not what he does, it's kind of how he does everything that he does. It's what brings him alive. So we don't all have a Simon Sinek that we can go to do this kind of process. And he does say that he has a hack, that you can do this to find out your true purpose, your why statement. So this is what I'm now going to tell you. He says you identify 3 to 4 of your very best friends. So these aren't family, they're your best friends. They are people that would pick up the phone if you called them at 3 a.m, and you would pick up their call. And what you do is you start with one person, one of your best friends, and you sit down and you say, "Why am I your friend?" And he says they'll give you some kind of nebulous answer. And so you say, no, really, tell me, why am I your friend? He says they'll give you an answer. And then you say, "Well, no, what is it about me that makes me a good friend?" And he says you keep asking this question over and over until they get totally frustrated with you, that you've pestered them. And they finally say, "I don't know, but," and then they give you their experience of you. They give you a statement of your value. And he says, you know that you've hit upon your purpose when you get goosebumps or tears, or there's some emotional response. And you do that with these other friends individually. And there will be a commonality if you get to that point where it's that feeling between everything that they say to you that you can develop out of that your why statement, your purpose in life, because the value that you are is you. Your why is the who you are at your natural best. So I'm going to give you a quick look at how I developed my purpose. I came to Cynic afterwards. But I think in some ways I didn't follow the friend process, but I really followed the reflection process. And part of that is because I was in science and mind at a certain point. So, for example, I didn't come up with a childhood memory, but I had always remembered something that happened to me when I was a teenager. I went to a party, and I am not an extrovert kind of person. And I was at that party talking to a friend saying, I don't fit here. I'm just too quiet. And she said to me, and this is what I always remember, she said, but Marcia, when I talk to you, I know you're listening. So there was that stayed with me. But then fast forward into my personal life and into my career. I had been at many small companies, big companies, and so on. And there was a point in time when I realized, and I was getting a little like wondering, I was often taken out of my job that I was there for and asked to lead a task force or bring some groups together when there was some kind of a crisis or we needed to develop a solution. And what I realized is that, yes, I had many experiences like that. And I loved being in those situations. It wasn't necessarily easy, but I loved the situation of bringing people together in a chaotic environment, coming up with a solution. And the more I've realized that, it's my individual way of expressing my spiritual gifts, my spiritual qualities. One is that I'm non-judgmental. I try to be. Anyway, when you have people from different groups coming together, I listen to their perspectives because I believe each one of them have something of value to say. I know how to ask questions and get people to see each other's perspectives. And then I'm not attached to any outcome. So often we come up with something surprising that everybody is delighted with. So out of that, I eventually developed my why statement, which is to inspire people to shine, to believe in their inherent worth and goodness during times of calm and crisis, bringing peace and order and solutions to the world. And what's interesting to me is I developed that before I became a practitioner or a minister, and it's held very much with those activities as well. Holmes says, life will be to you what you are to it. Somehow you must link your will, your thought, your intellect, your imagination, and your feeling with the divine presence, which is already there. So, how do you reignite your purpose? Let's say you know your purpose, but something's just not quite right. First of all, I'll say, if you feel like you need to rewrite your purpose, you haven't found that personal inner focus, that personal sense yet. So you want to keep working at it. But let's say you have, just something's not right. What I have found throughout my experience is that either means there's some action that I'm undertaking that's not in alignment with my purpose. So for example, I might be trying to control a situation, or I might be trying to do some spiritual bypass of some sort, not honoring a situation, not doing some more shadow work, for example. The other thing that could be the situation is that you may be doing your purpose, but it's the how the doing is being done. So it might be an environment that you're within that you have to recognize. So for example, you might need more self-care, or a situation might be that you're playing it safe and comfortable. Yes, you're doing your purpose, but something needs to change. And this is exactly what I found over time in my high-tech career. I loved the work that I was doing, this kind of work of bringing people together. However, I found that the culture of high-tech, this is a generalization, high-tech companies had changed. and I was not in alignment anymore with my values. So the work, even though I might be, living my principles, the environment was not the one for me, and I had to change. And so I'm not going to go into it right now, but that was a whole other story of deciding to never take a high-tech job again and working through that. I ended up in high-tech again, but in a totally different way. Okay, so that's a quick view of purpose. Hopefully I've given you some ideas. I want to talk now about where I am with thinking about purpose, because I want to honor that we are in a place right now where there's a lot of divisiveness, unease, fear in our country and in the world. And this has made me ponder that maybe we are being pushed by spirit to move. Yes, we have this personal inner purpose, that focus, that doesn't go away. But maybe we are being pushed to look at what is our collective purpose. It goes into this transcendental, more mystical, beyond self, beyond myself purpose. And there's many things I've thought, like, what is mine to do? And I keep coming back. For right now, everything that I can do is to love, be that love. And Jim mentioned that in his opening prayer. It's all about love. We can't change how others are, but we can learn to love and to realize that every single person has inherent value. They are a divine expression. And anything we see, and this is the hard one sometimes, it's all God. It's all God. So when I start from love, that is what I can bring to the world collectively. And it returns to you. So I'll give you just a quick example. I'm currently caregiving my 96-year-old father. He is to the point where he can't walk anymore. And he's a tall guy and kind of a dead weight. And so, there are times when I have to take him to the doctor or the dentist or get him out. And I am so amazed at the people that are kind, that help me get the wheelchair out of the car, that carry something for me, that open the doors. It's just amazing. And I don't know anything about what they believe, or, I don't know anything about them, but there is a love that we are expressing with each other. And that does make me come alive. So that's a very brief introduction into kind of where I am with purpose. I think we're being pushed. To really understand what it means to love. And love isn't about scale. That's not big or small, just like our personal purpose isn't big or small. It's how we feel when we are in that place. And Joseph Campbell says, I don't think the meaning of life is what we're seeking. I think it's an experience of being alive, so that our life experiences on the purely physical plane will have resonances within our own innermost being and reality, so that we actually feel the rapture of being alive. So my message to you this morning is to shine. Live your purpose, live your why statement, for the world needs you now. Bring alive that which is within you, that divine gift that is you. And I'll conclude with Ralph Waldo Emerson. He says in Self-Reliance, Insist on yourself. Never imitate. Your own gift you can present every moment with the cumulative force of a whole life's cultivation. But if you adopt a talent of another, you have only an extemporaneous half possession, that which each can do best. None but his master can teach him. So thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Rev Marcia. That was amazing. Now, before I stop the recording and we go on to our discussion, I'm going to say a tiny thing about money. We believe that one gives where one receives spiritual food. If you found value in this message, if you want to contribute to our work, please make a love offering at cslbouldervalley.org/donate. I'll put that link in the chat just so it's there. And now I'm going to stop the recording and we can begin our discussion.